man worth $40 million still checks the price of eggs. I watched him do it, standing in a Whole Foods in Austin, reading glasses pushed up on his forehead, comparing the store brand to the name brand for a $2 difference. And I remember thinking, that doesn't make sense. Why would someone who could buy the entire store even glance at a price tag? That question sat in my head for years, because everything I'd been told about rich people said the opposite. I thought wealth meant you stopped thinking about money. I thought the whole point of getting rich was to never have to calculate anything again. I was wrong. And by the end of this video, you're going to understand exactly why. Because the habits that build a fortune are almost the opposite of what you'd expect. Some of them will sound too small to matter. One of them might actually make you a little uncomfortable because it says something about how you're living right now. But stick with me, because there's one habit near the end, the one that man in Whole Foods taught me without saying a single word, that changes the way you'll look at every dollar you touch for the rest of your life. Let's start with something almost nobody talks about because it's not exciting enough for a headline. Most people who build real wealth track their net worth the way other people track their weight. Not obsessively, not with anxiety, just consistently. Once a month, they sit down, they add up what they own, they subtract what they owe, and they write down one number. That's it. No spreadsheet wizardry, no secret formula. Here's why that matters more than it sounds like it should. Thomas Stanley spent decades studying self-made millionaires for his research on how ordinary people quietly build extraordinary wealth. And he found something almost boring in its simplicity. The people who got rich weren't the highest earners. They were the ones who knew, down to the dollar, where they stood. Because you cannot fix what you refuse to look at. A 28-year-old software engineer I know makes close to $160,000 a year and has no idea what he's worth. Could be positive. Could be deep in the red between student loans and a car he probably shouldn't have leased. He's not stupid. He's just avoiding the mirror. And avoiding the mirror is the single most expensive habit in personal finance. Because what you don't measure, you don't manage. And what you don't manage, manages you. So that's the first one. Ugly, unglamorous, and non-negotiable. Now here's where it gets a little more interesting. Because the second habit is going to sound like it contradicts everything you've heard about hustle culture. Rich people protect boredom. I don't mean they're lazy. I mean they build empty space into their week on purpose. No podcasts, no phone, sometimes just a walk with absolutely nothing in their ears. And I used to think that was a luxury only rich people could afford. Turns out it's the opposite. It's a habit that came before the money, not after it. Because your brain does its best financial thinking when it's not being fed content every single second. Some of the biggest decisions, leaving a stable job, buying that first rental property, walking away from a business partner who wasn't pulling their weight, those decisions rarely get made in the noise. They get made in the quiet, on some ordinary Tuesday walk when a thought finally has room to finish itself. You want to know something that'll bother you a little? The average person checks their phone over 100 times a day. Every one of those checks is a tiny withdrawal from the account where your best ideas live. You're not too busy to think clearly. You're too loud. Try this out for 1 week. Put your phone in another room for 30 minutes a day, no destination, just walk. And tell me in the comments if a decision you'd been avoiding suddenly gets clearer. I want to hear it because I've had that happen more times than I can count. Third habit, and this one's personal because it took me embarrassingly long to learn it. Millionaires almost never buy something the moment they want it. Not because they can't afford it, because they've built in a gap. Sometimes 24 hours, sometimes a full week, between the impulse and the purchase. My aunt, who built a small chain of dry cleaning shops from a single storefront over 20 years, told me once that she has a rule. Anything over $200 sleeps on it for a week. She said something that stuck with me. The want is loud today and quiet by Thursday. Money should never move at the speed of a feeling. Compare that to the way most of us actually spend. Something catches your eye on your phone at 11 at night, and by 11:04 it's already shipping. That gap, that tiny pause she built into her life, isn't about restriction. It's about interrupting the loop before the loop empties your account. Because impulse spending isn't really about the object. It's about soothing a feeling for about 4 seconds, and then the feeling comes right back, except now you're $200 lighter and the feeling's still there waiting for you. Here's a reframe that might change how you see your own bank statement. Every unnecessary purchase isn't just money gone. It's a version of your future self that got a little further away. That new pair of shoes you don't need, that subscription you forgot to cancel, each one is a small vote against the life you say you actually want. Now, if you've been nodding along so far, good, because the next one is going to feel like it goes against everything you've been told about being generous. Wealthy people are strategic about who gets their time, not just their money. This one stings a little, so I'll just say it plainly. You cannot build financial freedom while saying yes to every request that lands in your inbox. Warren Buffett has talked for years about the habit of writing down 25 goals, picking the top 5, and treating the other 20 as a list of things to actively avoid. Not later, not eventually, but starting now. Most people think success is about adding more. It's actually about protecting fewer things more fiercely. Think about the friend who always needs a favor, the relative who calls only when there's a problem, the meeting that could have been an email but somehow eats your whole Tuesday morning. Every one of those is a withdrawal from the same account that funds your future, your time, your focus, your energy. Rich people aren't colder than everyone else. They're just more protective of the hours that actually move the needle because they understand something most of us never sit down long enough to realize. Time is the only resource you can't get back once it's spent, and yet it's the one we guard the least. All right, 5 down. And I promised you a pivot, a reframe that changes how you see everything before it. Here it is. Every single habit I just told you has almost nothing to do with money. Tracking your net worth is really about honesty. Protecting boredom is really about clarity. Waiting before you buy is really about self-control. Guarding your time is really about priorities. Wealth isn't the cause of those traits, it's the result of them. That's the part nobody tells you on the finance videos that promise you a formula. There is no formula. There's just a person who got quietly, boringly consistent about a handful of decisions, long before anyone was watching, long before there was a dollar amount attached to any of it. Which brings me back to that man in Whole Foods. I found out later he wasn't checking the egg prices because he needed to save $2. He told me, and I've never forgotten this, that the day he stops paying attention to $2 is the day he starts losing track of 2 million. It's not about the money. It's about never letting the muscle go soft. Rich people don't check prices because they're cheap. They check prices because attention is the habit, and money is just where that habit eventually shows up. Here's habit 6, and it might be the simplest one on this list, which is exactly why almost nobody does it. They automate what they can't trust themselves to do manually. The morning your paycheck lands, before you see the number, before you feel the temptation, a chunk of it is already gone, moved automatically into savings or an investment account. Not because they have superhuman discipline, because they know they don't. A behavioral study out of Harvard on default choices found something almost funny. When saving is the automatic option and spending requires effort, people save dramatically more, even though nothing about their income or willpower actually changed. The trick isn't becoming a stronger person, it's designing a system that doesn't require you to be one every single day. 7th, and this one surprises people every time. They ask for the number. In salary negotiations and business deals and freelance rates, they say the actual figure out loud, even when it feels uncomfortable, even when their stomach drops a little saying it. Most of us round down before anyone even has the chance to reject us. We talk ourselves out of the ask before the conversation even starts. But every dollar you don't ask for is a dollar you've already decided you don't deserve, and compounded over a 20-year career, that quiet self-rejection is worth more than almost any investment you'll ever make. 8th, they read for 1 hour before they check anything else in the morning. Not scrolling, reading. Something with actual pages or at least actual paragraphs. Because the first input of your day sets the frequency for everything that follows. And there's a version of you that starts each morning already reacting to everything. and a version that starts each morning already thinking. Only one of those versions builds anything that lasts. Ninth, they say no to lifestyle creep on purpose, out loud, sometimes even to their own family. The raise comes in, and instead of the car getting nicer, the gap between what they earn and what they spend gets a little wider every single year. That gap, not the salary, is the actual engine of financial freedom. I've met people earning $400,000 a year who are one bad month from broke, and I've met a shopkeeper earning a fraction of that who owns 3 properties outright because one of them understood the gap and the other one never did. And the 10th, the last one, the one that ties every other habit together, they treat money as a tool for freedom, never as a scoreboard. The goal was never the number. The number was always just a way of buying back time, buying back choices, buying back the ability to say no to things that don't fit the life they actually want. Once you stop chasing money to prove something and start using it to build something, every one of these 9 habits stops feeling like discipline. It starts feeling like relief. So if you're sitting there right now, 25, 35, 45, wondering if it's too late, wondering if the people who made it just got lucky or started earlier or knew something you didn't, I want you to hear this clearly. It was never about luck. It was never even mostly about money. It was 10 small, boring, repeatable decisions, made quietly, long before anyone was impressed by them. And the version of you 5 years from now is either going to thank you for starting today or resent you for waiting one more year to begin. If even one of these 10 hit a little close to home, tell me which one in the comments, like it, share it with someone who could benefit, and subscribe for more insights.